The show where there are no penalties, nothing is offside, and everything is fair game. This is The Gloves Are Off.
Hello and welcome to another edition of The Gloves Are Off. I'm Moses Boulder. We got a jam-packed show for you today. A lot of people on the move from the MLB standpoint. However, this guy keeps standing pat, and I'm sure his butt has made a groove on that leather chair. Andrew Brethauer.
Solid rock. That's what I am.
How are you doing, buddy?
Has it? No, it's not big enough. So I'm
doing
good.
Mr. Soros, sports editor.
Yep, still there.
Yep, still working hard. I take it.
I guess I'm working hard.
All right. Well, obviously he's in vacation mode. Speaking of a guy who's in vacation mode, you managed to get here, pry you away from a lake, and I know as a teacher, that's definitely tough considering 9-10 months of the year you're going to have to deal with kids. Nevertheless, pleased to be joined by LPSD Athletic Director Ryan Skalapski.
Yep.
How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Shoulders doing good. Yeah.
Shoulders doing good. Yeah.
Someone's got to throw those balls to kids.
Yeah.
So.
Got to watch the burn, a little bit. So.
And of course, there is a little bit of an interesting outfit that you have here. You got to explain to us as to why you got some Redhawks jersey, or I guess hoodie and a ball cap going.
Yeah. So attended provincials this past weekend, U21 junior provincials in Moose Jaw, and the Redhawks captured the provincial title, mercing Weyburn, upsetting the number 1 seed Regina, and then mercing Moose Jaw to get to the final where they defeated Moose Jaw 5-2. So a third softball/baseball team has advanced to nationals. So the Redhawks will head to Regina in 2 weeks for U21 national championships and see where they sit across the rest of the Canadian teams there.
Awesome. Well, it's nice to see that baseball is alive and well here in the border city, and it's great. It's a great segue, I should say, to go into our topic and talk about Major League Baseball and the past trade deadline, or non-waiver trade deadline that happened this past Monday. The Blue Jays were involved a little bit, grabbing some depth on the pitching standpoint, Francisco Liriano, but there were a couple moves that kind of stole the show. If you look at the Texas Rangers and who they picked up, Jonathan Lucroy and Carlos Beltran, some of the bigger names. The Dodgers also making some names, picking up a pair of athletic players. You look at this from a grand scheme of things in terms of winners and losers. Who would you go with in terms of those spots?
For me, Texas would be number 1 just because of what they acquired at the deadline and filled some weaknesses. The weakness I think they still have is starting pitching. You look after Darvish and Hamels, and that best of 5 series, you need that third starter to try and get that win, and they don't really have that third starter available. Next would probably be the Giants for what they acquired.
Nunez.
Yep. And then the third one, which I think nobody's talked about because they completely gutted their team, was the New York Yankees. And the rebuild, I think, has finally started in New York, where they got rid of some of the archaic players that are there. They got rid of Chapman. They got rid of Miller, so a couple of their big relievers. So, it'll be interesting to see how far back they fall in the AL East standings. But I think the rebuild has finally started in New York, where they're ushering in the new generation of New York Yankee players to wear the pinstripes.
I have no idea. I don't follow baseball. But everyone obviously knows the Blue Jays. I like what they did in not selling the farm. They did that last year. Didn't work. Don't do it again. Because you can't keep doing this year after year.
You're going to have to give up something.
You do, but you're not the farm. They can't give up everything every year. You gave up one last year for David Price, and that didn't work out. You can't keep doing it every year, just giving up all your prospects, all your future, because eventually you're going to have no present, because that's all that's going to happen. So they have the team right now. You didn't really need a bunch. You're still very competitive. You're just in a very competitive division. That's the unfortunate thing for the Blue Jays. They're in arguably the best division in baseball. How are you supposed to compete? Well, you can't every year just give up everybody you have behind you to make your team better this year, because eventually it's going to run out and you're going to be scrambling for rebuilds all the time.
How do they go then? In your case, are they a winner or a loser?
They're a winner in my book. They're from doing nothing for very little, I guess. They're a winner because you can't keep selling everything. You have to maintain with what you have. They have like one of the best hitting teams in baseball, a solid pitching staff, which is funny to say about the Blue Jays. You don't need to throw an ace starter in there. Like, that's not going to get you to that next level. You need to just build with what you have and keep moving forward that way.
The biggest thing the Jays have right now, I think, is depth. Last year they traded away 11 pitchers at the deadline for Tulo, LaTroy Hawkins, David Price, Revere, Derek Lowe. So they gutted their pitching roster. But the biggest thing right now, I think, is they have more depth. They're a little more balanced. Their starting pitching, like Andrew said, is a little bit more balanced. So I like the way they are built, they're better than they were last year, and it shows in the standings. Right? Last year they were a game over 500 when they acquired Price, and then you look at the roll they went on. This year they're 10, 11 games above 500, so they're doing better with what they have right now.
What's one team that disappointed you then? If there was one team that should have made a move or gave up too much?
I think Cleveland getting burnt with that LaCroix deal, the catcher from Milwaukee, vetoing his deal and going to Texas instead of Cleveland, I think is going to hurt the Indians in the long run, but picking up Miller is going to be a huge piece for them moving into the postseason. So.
All right, big this week is going to be the Olympics, which kick off tomorrow with some of the events getting underway, and then officially with the opening ceremonies this Friday. Now, there's a lot of talk about the Olympics, and it's not all positive.
Nope.
From the water to the rampant crime to, well, a lot of things that are going on, to say the least. In your opinion, Andrew, I'm going to start with you. What is going to be the major factor? Or are we actually, you know, let's put it this way. Are we going to see a major hiccup that's bigger than what we've seen so far?
You got to figure something is going to happen. You have to figure. Like, we thought Sochi was bad. Remember Sochi? Remember how bad that was?
Vancouver.
Sochi was nothing compared to what Brazil's turning into. Brazil's a nightmare. Like, this should make everyone rethink how we now start selecting Olympic Games and how we start building Olympic Games, because now spending the billions of dollars, what are you getting for it? You're getting half-assed built stadiums and residents, and can't even clean up proper thing. Like, we're having people swimming in things that they pass safety, but you probably still shouldn't be competing in them. And like, where do you eventually draw the line saying, okay, it's not working. We're spending what, $1, $2, $3 billion on Olympic Games.
Oh, more
but
than
we
that.
still
now
can't
they spend
bring
about
it to
$11 billion.
Yeah,
in
or
this
whatever
Olympics
it is.
alone.
Yeah, like billions of dollars on something that's still fundamentally so flawed. It does. Like, you hope something happens. You hope people don't get hurt, but you hope something happens just so it's like, we gotta clean this up. Oh, everything needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah, the scary part is the water. I mean, you're reading reports where they're telling people not to put their head under the water, and you have all these events that require water. So how are they going to handle that? The one thing I'm looking forward to is seeing sports that you don't traditionally see on the air. And I would look at Vancouver when John Montgomery wins his event. He's chugging his beer going down Whistler, and you know, you don't get that. You get that feel-good Canadian story. I mean, yeah, he's hosting Amazing Race right now. It's like whatever. But you get that feel-good Canadian story that it's like, you never heard of that athlete, you don't know much about that sport, and it's expanding the thought process behind the major Canadian sports that are always on the forefront or always on the Olympic front, and opening a door to maybe somebody trying something different. So,
is there a sport that you guys are looking forward to in the upcoming 16 days or so?
Water polo. Yes. I love, same thing. I love watching fringe sports, water polo, like rugby sevens. I'm really excited to see it in the Olympics. I think it's a great addition. They find that, surprised that was never in the Olympics before, but it's great to have that in there. Athletics, I just don't care for swimming. I don't care for gymnastics. Like, you get tired of watching it. I want to watch something different.
yeah, for me it's athletics. Usain Bolt with 100 meters. You get the long distance, your 10,000 meter races. And then the one sport I like to watch, even though it's always on TV throughout the course of North America, is basketball with the U.S. Dream Team, and seeing if they live up to the expectations or if they fold under pressure. So,
If DeMar DeRozan has shown us over the past couple weeks, the U.S. looked pretty darn good, and there's a couple Raptors on the team that would look great.
They like to have fun.
Exactly.
Remember 10,000 meter walking? Remember, we huge money on the line.
All right, well, that's Andrew moving his hips and lips in this case. All right, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, talking about feeling the pressure, the Saskatchewan Roughriders are 1-4. Surprise, surprise. Well, some of these guys don't think so. We'll tell you more coming up.